Jonathon Brooks, guys, he's maybe back, and you might need to care about him now. Rico Dowdle is an unrestricted free agent. He's going to test the free agency market. It sounds like he wants to be a guy that can get the bulk of the carries, go start somewhere. That's probably not going to be Carolina. So we're left with an incumbent starter, Chuba Hubbard, and Jonathon Brooks, who is going to be 23 years old at the start of the season, still very young. And Brooks was drafted by this regime. Dave Canales called him the best running back in his draft class. Now that's a low bar, the 2024 running back draft class, but at least at one time, this coach, this GM was bought into Jonathon Brooks as a talent, and it sounds like they still are. Could be a really strong kind of payoff for you, or could just completely go to zero.
I'm Theo Greminger, joined today by Ryan Heath and Thomas Tipple. We're going to be doing these sort of shows all offseason long. Make sure you're subscribed to Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube. Guys, how we doing today? We're going to talk about some handcuff values, and let's start out with you, Thomas, because you've got a really, really good one that's been playing unbelievable fantasy football recently.
Yeah, I'm doing well, and we've seen through the playoffs that it doesn't really matter how good or how hot a player is running. The value is going to stay relatively the same, even in island playoff games. And he may not technically count as a handcuff, but the value makes him a handcuff. Trevion Henderson is currently going in the top 3 to 4 rounds of dynasty startup drafts, and he should. He's insanely talented. But I do not believe there should be a 9 to 10 round gap with the production that Rhamondre Stevenson gave you this year. Rhamondre had 13 points per game. Henderson was at 12.2. We're going to talk about how Rhamondre missed some time in this, but what do we care about in running backs mostly? Well, again, that word value. ADP RB35, he's pick 140. He's in and around the 12th and 13th round, and that is with him front and center and in mind. 244 routes last year, 48.8% to Trevion's 225. That is with Henderson missing time. Now, Henderson did out-target Rhamondre by 4. He had 3 more receptions. With Rhamondre coming out, the better yards per route run per game. He was more efficient, yards per game. He was seeing down the field routes, as we saw in the literal league-winning sense at the end of the season. He was elusive, more elusive than people want to give him credit for. 30 forced missed tackles to Trevion's 24. He currently leads the NFL playoffs in rushing. 100% of the team's touches inside the 5. Only 1 forced missed tackle behind Ken Walker. He is more elusive than people want to give him credit for. 93.8% of the snaps in the AFC Championship game, likely due to the weather, which is odd given his, fumbling habits early in the season. They trust him, they like him, and he's not going anywhere. There is an out after 2026 where they can save cap money, but the Patriots have cap space and they need offensive players. I don't see this role for Rhamondre going away anytime soon. So when you look at his production, guys, it wasn't Trevion Henderson that won you your leagues this year. That was Rhamondre Stevenson with what he put up in weeks 16, 17. Unbelievable. Of course, the week 18 game is often forgotten about because if you're playing in week 18 fantasy football championships, Godspeed. But even looking at the prices in trades, Rhamondre Stevenson in a 27 second for Rico Dowdle and the 501 in a 2 quarterback. That was made today, the day we're recording this, February 3rd. I'll take that every single time. You've got Chuba and Rhamondre for Woody Marks and Bryce Young. I would take that. The 304 for Rhamondre. I will easily send my 304 away. He's just a constant value. And again, that is with him being in your mind now. Just wait until rookie season kicks off. And then everyone's talking about their breakout running backs. Henderson's name is just going to be thrust into the conversation every single time, pushing Rhamondre farther and farther down the board. So not only am I buying now, I'll be buying in a couple of months.
Yeah, I love the Stevenson call out. It's hard to see him fading at all next year. He's got a lot of outs to really exceed this sort of ADP. Ryan Heath, who are you targeting right now? Who do you view as a significant value the dynasty managers should get on their rosters?
Yeah, so when I look at handcuffs in Dynasty, I try to evaluate two things. One is just how vulnerable is the running back that's in front of the backup. And the second is, what do I have to gain or what do I have to win if this handcuff I place my bet on does in fact take over the job? Is there runway for him into 2027 and beyond potentially? So both the guys I'm going to talk about today fit that criteria. The first is Dylan Sampson. So we're going to start off by talking about Quinshon Judkins because that's kind of the biggest elephant in the room here. Fractured his fibula and dislocated his ankle down the stretch near the end of the season. Judkins was given a 4 to 6 month timeline, so he should be back for training camp around May or June. But what we've seen in the recent past from these fibula fractures is running backs are usually nowhere near as effective in the short term after returning. It is an injury that running backs return from. They aren't usually that effective though. Tony Pollard in 2022 led the entire NFL in yards from scrimmage per touch. Everyone was convinced he was one of the best, most explosive, most exciting running backs in the league. Fractures his fibula at the end of the year, comes back in 2023, was ready for the start of the season, but 32nd in yards from scrimmage per touch. Everybody thought that he randomly became washed. It was like this big shocking mystery. The year after the fibula was pretty much back to Tony Pollard-esque form with the Titans. So that's one example. The other recent example is Isaiah Pacheco. He was also, if you remember, a couple years ago, like the exciting rookie young player, averaged 5 yards from scrimmage per touch in his first 2 seasons. That fell all the way to 4.1 in 2025 after he fractured his fibula at the start of 2024. Came back at the end of the year, was not effective at all in 2025. 51st of 54 qualifying running backs, again, in yards from scrimmage per touch. So to me, Judkins is kind of the perfect value meat shield where, yeah, he's on top of the depth chart in 2026. He is very likely going to remain there, but I find it pretty unlikely he's going to be all that effective with his touches. And with this new regime, with Todd Monken coming in with the Browns, there should be a little bit of runway for anyone who's behind Judkins to be earning touches, to be earning work. I don't think they are necessarily as married to Judkins as the prior regime was, so that's something to consider. The other thing to consider is that Sampson has at least one part of his skill set that's going to get him on the field, and that is his skill in the receiving game. Sampson actually finished second among all running backs in yards per route run this past season, behind only Bijan Robinson. It's really rare for rookie running backs to hit over 2 yards per route run like Dylan Sampson just did. Breece Hall is the only other rookie RB to do it since 2021. Sampson also led all running backs in targets per route run, just ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. His yards per route run went all the way up to 2.6 in games with Shadur Sanders. If we care about that, I don't think you have to. It wasn't just a bunch of designed screens or anything like that. Sampson was totally average in screen target rate. He just is a really good receiver, and that at the very least is going to get him opportunities. So yeah, I think Sampson, where he's going all the way down at RB 48 right now in dynasty startups, it just presents a lot of upside. He's kind of being drafted as if people have forgotten about him.
Yeah, a lot of times the year 2 leaps in production at the running back position are associated with backs that can catch the football. Sampson's has shown that, and I would argue that Monken is a pretty good fit for the personnel that's currently on Cleveland, but there's a lack of pass-catching weapons regardless of what's going on with Judkins. Sampson could take a big step forward. 4th-round draft capital in a really, really strong rookie running back class last year. Another big source of fantasy production the last couple of years has been free agent running backs. And a couple of the handcuffs that I'm circling right now, I'll throw them both in sort of a similar bucket. Their values are different right now. It's Tyler Allgeier at running back 32 and Rachaad White at running back 47. And with both of these players, the chaos of the upcoming offseason and the lack of high-end running backs in this 2026 class is both going to pay off for both of these players. Allgeier, the writing's on the wall. I think a lot of smart dynasty managers have accumulated Tyler Allgeier shares. The guy scored 8 touchdowns last year in the same backfield as Bijan Robinson. He has 1,000 rushing yard season under his belt. There's a chance that he could be very, very effective next season. You look at guys like Rico Dowdle, Kenneth Gainwell, Javonte Williams. Tyler Allgeier, I think, is going to have a stronger market than those kind of guys who all scored very, very well and provided us a ton of running back utility this year in Dynasty. So Allgeier, sort of a low-hanging fruit. Where could he end up, guys? There's so many spots right now. Dallas Cowboys, if they want to go cheap again. Jacksonville Jaguars, if Travis Etienne leaves in some sort of a committee. Kansas City has been thrown out as a potential landing spot for Allgeier. There's a bunch of spots that Allgeier will land, and his ADP could shoot up 5-6 spots. He's young enough and effective enough. And then Rachaad White has been a guy that's been sort of beat up in the community for years, but he catches the football at a high level under multiple offensive coordinators, and I think that's going to translate on the open marketplace. So when I look at Rachaad White, he's a player that has 204 career catches. He has 25 career touchdowns. And, we did see the season where it all came together from him. That was back in 2023, averaged 15.8 points per game. You talk about a player that could be this season's Kenneth Gainwell, where if it lands well, he's got an opportunity to catch a lot of passes out of a backfield. Rachaad White has that. And I think he's going to be valued on the open market as a handcuff. He's cheap right now at running back 48. Both of these players, I want to add free agent running backs before the start of free agency. I think that these sort of players have been continual values for us in all forms of fantasy football, dynasty included. And guys, this show today, if you want more Dynasty content like this, you want to get access to my Dynasty rankings, Thomas's Dynasty rankings, Ryan's Dynasty rankings, and all of our tremendous Dynasty content, make sure you check out fantasypoints.com. We've got you covered on everything fantasy football related. So much great information is coming out. Ryan just dropped a tremendous article that is a must-read for any fantasy manager out there. And you want to take advantage of getting ahead of your league mates. Terrific hit rate for our projections guru, Chris Weck, this past season. I mean, just tremendous value for dynasty managers as well as redraft managers and especially you DFS managers out there. Check out fantasypoints.com. Thomas, who do you have next for the handcuffs that you view as some of the best values in Dynasty?
Where Rhamondre Stevenson was a little bit more of a breeze, bit more of an obvious point for me, this next one is way more of a long shot. I have Keaton Mitchell at RB61. That's picked 233 in and around the 2005 over the last month or so. Cheap, all upside type play, but he has an equal opportunity to be a big fat zero at the end of it as he does actually hitting. But should anything happen to Henry and the new coaching staff don't bring in somebody, a veteran, maybe one of the two, Allgeier just screams the type of back the Baltimore Ravens would spend money on when they already have Derrick Henry. So you're hoping to avoid the draft and you're hoping to avoid free agency, but luckily a team has enough holes to fill. I don't think running back is top of their concern. Of his 341 rushing yards, 150% of them came on explosive runs. We know that's what he provides. That's why fantasy managers have been yelling at the screen at Harbaugh for every time Rasheen Ali or Justice Hill stepped on the field. Fans like myself, again, the biggest hurdle for him is getting more of the passing down work. We're looking for screens and pop plays for him. But as mentioned, the Harbaugh staff seemed to love Ali, who was a safe play on third downs for them. I imagine a new coaching staff hopefully falls in love with Keaton Mitchell's speed and what he can do. And then, of course, there's the Justice Hill problem. One of the favorites from the previous regime, but the Ravens can save $3.2 million by releasing him post June 1st. A team that's hard up for cap space, that has to extend their franchise quarterback, re-sign the top 5 center in football, and help out that league worst defense. I think it's worth a long shot that they go in with the cheaper RB on the depth chart. So I'm looking forward to it. And then at that price, you look at Keaton Mitchell for a 27th third. I think that's completely fine. That was from yesterday. You're seeing trades like Keaton Mitchell, the 301 and the 208 for Tyler Allgeier. So you're getting a second round pick in there as well, early third. I'm completely fine with that. Lots of opportunity to buy for cheap draft picks in 2027, 2028, even if you're looking at Dynasty Daddy's trade database. He's definitely a player that you can add in as a throw-in on your side. Lots of opportunity to acquire. Again, could be a big, fat zero, but any upside in that offense, I think, is worth having.
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell's a player that we were sort of screaming at John Harbaugh to get on the field multiple times. High-value touch guy, could really benefit from a new staff. I love that call, Thomas. Ryan, you got a fun name to discuss as well.
I do, yeah. I've been waiting until the 2026 offseason until we could talk about this guy again. It's been in the folder. I'm ready to let it out of the drafts. Jonathon Brooks, guys, he's maybe back, and you might need to care about him now. So right off the bat, can absolutely become a zero. It is totally within the range of outcomes that Jonathon Brooks doesn't take another NFL touch ever again. Just have to accept that with these kind of injury gamble types of guys. I think he makes the most sense to acquire either as a throw-in or if you have like a rebuilding team that's trying to make the jump from rebuilder to contender this year, and you've just accumulated like all of these second, third round rookie picks. Throwing one of those on to Jonathon Brooks, I think, makes some sense as a dart that could pay dividends immediately in 2026. So here's the case, right? Rico Dowdle is an unrestricted free agent. He's going to test the free agency market. It sounds like he wants to be a guy that can get the bulk of the carries, go start somewhere. That's probably not going to be Carolina from the sounds of it, and from how it kind of ended at the end of the season there with that committee. So we're left with an incumbent starter, Chuba Hubbard, and Jonathon Brooks, who is going to be 23 years old at the start of the season, still very young. He will be about 18 months off his most recent ACL tear, which, as far as I could find, was a totally clean ACL tear. Didn't also include MCL damage. There wasn't anything else funky going on with that. It just unfortunately was his second one to the same knee within a calendar year of each other. So that's not great, but there was no other additional damage we need to worry about. And Brooks was drafted by this regime. Dave Canales called him the best running back in his draft class. Now that's a low bar, the 2024 running back draft class, but at least at one time, this coach, this GM was bought into Jonathon Brooks as a talent, and it sounds like they still are. Both Canales and GM Dan Morgan were quoted in January basically complimenting Jonathon Brooks, saying that he looks great in his rehab. He is flying around, running routes, like looking strong, will be ready for training camp. And Canales even said that he is going to compete to start. So that's really positive. We can just view Brooks as kind of entering as like a real part of this Panthers running back room. We maybe avoided the worst case scenario, absent another injury. So when we evaluate this backfield as a whole now, we're left with Hubbard, who is coming off one of the most inefficient seasons we saw from a running back in the entirety of 2025, bottom 10 in pretty much every per touch category, whether it's missed tackles forced, yards after contact, yards from scrimmage per touch. All of these metrics, he vastly underperformed teammate Rico Dowdle in. And we know that this backfield is a meritocracy under Dave Canales. When Hubbard was not performing, when Rico Dowdle was performing better, Rico Dowdle took the job. That is very important to note. I don't want to hear any more about Chuba Hubbard's contract. That was proven wrong in 2025. Dave Canales is not going to play a running back just because of his cap hit. So that is important for Brooks. It leaves the door open a little bit more. It's nice to know that this is, at least in theory, a valuable backfield. All three of Canales' offenses, when he's been a play caller, have been in the bottom half of the league in pass rate over expectation. He's typically very run heavy. He's had a top 10 back by expected fantasy points per game in 2 of those 3 seasons. So there is some legitimate week-to-week upside for the starting running back for the Panthers. So that adds to the appeal here with Jonathon Brooks. So it really just comes down to he's a bet on the talent we once saw. He showed 3-down ability in his only season as the starter in Texas. He had the best yards per target average in the 2024 running back draft class. It's just very easy to see a world where Hubbard gets another minor injury and Brooks kind of runs with the job, or Hubbard just underperforms again and Brooks works his way into the job. And yeah, again, you can get onto this for less than the cost of kind of a premier handcuff. Yet it's a backfield where I really want to own the handcuff. So yeah, give me Jonathon Brooks at the ADP of RB45 over on Dynasty Data Lab. He's a kind of a fun one to be sprinkling in if you're more of a portfolio player in Dynasty, can afford to take some stands across a handful of your rosters that could be a really strong kind of payoff for you, or could just completely go to zero.
Yeah, Dave Canales has been a running back whisperer, and I think the fact that Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard had so much success for him the last 2 seasons, and Rachaad White had his big season under Dave Canales, and Thomas Tipple, all it's going to take for Jonathon Brooks' ADP to move up is a workout video. The Dynasty community, all they need to do is see, I mean, you see a video of him looking really, really good in some off-season workout with no pads on, the community is going to go head over heels. So get ahead of the market. Former Panthers running back Jonathan Stewart also came out and said that we should be buying Jonathon Brooks' jersey. This guy's going to come out and be a star. So there's some little writing on the wall there. Love that name. I'll go with another kind of post-hype guy. When we go back to last offseason, the Jets beat reporters, the Jets coaching staff, there was this collective hype for a Braelon Allen year 2 breakout season. And I talked about the free agent running back class. The most interesting name in the free agent running back class right now is Breece Hall. Breece Hall could potentially be franchise tagged by the Jets, but if he hits the open market and signs elsewhere, Braelon Allen is going to have a potential to really break out heading into his year 3 season. He's running back 40 in ADP, so he's not super cheap, but if we look at the potential role for him leading the Jets backfield, and guys, he's only 22 years old. He just turned 22 years old very recently. He'll be 22 years old for the entirety of this NFL season. He is a very, very young veteran. There's a lot of talk among the beat reporters about how much Aaron Glenn loved his physicality as a runner. There's been multiple coaches who have tried to get Braelon Allen involved. Last year, he only played 4 games, and he played behind Breece Hall. He was consistently ahead of Isaiah Davis in multiple seasons. There's a chance that he's going to lead the Jets' backfield. I realize this is an offense that's difficult to bet on, but with Braelon Allen, we have a 22-year-old back who will be 23 years old when he first hits the free agent market. This is a player with a chance to gain a lot of value in Dynasty over the next year. I think he's priced appropriately, guys. I don't think this is one you want to go and overpay for, But Braelon Allen, if you put him head-to-head against a lot of this 2026 rookie class, I think we'd end up leaning towards Braelon Allen.
Yeah, important to note that he is definitely a portfolio play. Like Theo said, you want to make sure you're not overpaying. If you go and look at active trades, recent trades, trades that happen in real leagues, through whatever trade database that you want to look through, you see everything from just a Tyrone Tracy Jr., you see the 205 straight up. That was done today, the day we're recording this. 27 second for Allen and a fourth. The 112 straight up in a 1 QB. He can get expensive. So if you want to hit on somebody like Allen and you're playing in 5, 10 plus leagues, a real portfolio, it's way easier to get somebody like Allen outside of startup drafts when you can go shopping a little bit. So keep that in mind when playing. Like Theo mentioned, you don't want to overpay for a player like Allen.
Yeah, don't pay the 112 in a single QB league for Braelon Allen, guys. Don't go doing that. So if you want more of Thomas and Ryan, make sure you are subscribed to the Dynasty Points podcast feed, and you can watch all episodes of Dynasty Points right here on Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube. And make sure you check out Dynasty Life. I had Scott Connor of Destination Devi and Jax Falcone. Both of those episodes are dropping right here on this channel. And make sure you're subscribed to the Dynasty Life podcast feed as well. And if you have Dynasty questions or you have topics that you want to see Thomas, Ryan, and myself cover right here on this channel, let us know in the comments, and we've got you covered. We're going to help you crush the entire offseason, and we'll see you back here very soon.